Hello everyone, I'm Samuel Reiman and this is a British American's Guide to This Weekend in Motorsports, Season 2, Episode number 1. And we're going to kick off a new season with a bit of a different format, much like NASCAR is. I'm simply going to ask myself for this first episode, but as the season goes on, you can send in questions. Ask myself 4 questions. Once we've answered the questions, the show is over. Now I've got 2 questions regarding Formula 1, 1 question regarding NASCAR, and 1 question regarding Supercross. So let's start with a Formula 1 question. And the first question, of course, is, are the new cars in Formula 1's changed its regulations this year, so the cars look awesome, but the big question is, are they going to produce more exciting racing? And there's 2 arguments for that. The one for it is, yes, it will, because the cars punch a bigger hole through the air, and they're also a little bit harder to drive, so maybe that could open up some more strategy plays, it could open up some more passing in the drafting zones, but then the argument against it, saying that no, F1's going to be a bit more boring this year, goes for the fact that the cars are wider, and of course the fact that they're harder to drive means the drivers are going to be wrestling with their own cars more than worrying about trying to pass the guy in front of him, and they're going to have less room to do it because the cars are wider. It's quite simple, you know, the track's only so wide, and now you've got less room where you can maneuver a car in between. Some drivers have said passing will be better, some drivers have said there won't be as much passing. The conclusion, I think, I can't remember where I read it from, but it kind of makes sense to me, is that on tracks, for lack of a better term, Herman Tilke designed tracks, these new modern circuits that have these long straights leading into overtaking zones. Those are going to see a lot of passing, not the kind of passing that we enjoy because it's all going to take place on the main straights, whereas the circuits, the more twistier ones where you have less room to play with, such as Monaco and Baku, yeah, those tracks might be a little bit more processional. Hopefully not though, and the fact of the matter is, at the end of the day, we're going to see some awesome looking cars going around, so we've still got good things to watch, even if they are going around in the procession, even though they might not be as good to listen to as what they were back in the past. So now let's go over to NASCAR, where the big question has been, will the stages format improve the show? Now I'm going to confess, this is meant to be episode 2 of season 2. I actually filmed an episode about a month ago where I said, I'm not so sure this whole stages thing is a good idea. However, then it occurred to me, why am I making this assumption now? The season hasn't even started, you know, we're just a couple weeks away from seeing how it's actually going to play out. They're going to do it, so let's let them have their show and wait and see what happens. Well, what have we seen? Just restricting it to the Cup Series for now. Let's put Xfinity and trucks in the back burner. And what we have seen is inconclusive. We've only got, you know, 2 races so far. One of them was a demolition derby. One of them was based on strategy, where the drivers were kind of too scared to race each other almost because they were so worried about their own tyres and their own race. We've seen 2 entirely different races, and the honest answer to it is the stages haven't made a whole big of an impact right now. Yes, Daytona was a demolition derby, but all the crashes, none of the crashes were really stage related, whereas over at Atlanta, the cautions kind of just provided interruptions towards the race, and the race continued as it was going on after each stage had finished. So let's wait a few more races before we begin saying, hey, maybe they could tweak it this way. Okay, so next question, over in Supercross. When I was filming that show a month ago, I said, well, I'd like to tell you Supercross would be great to watch this season. Unfortunately, we had a great rivalry between Ryan Dungey and Ken Roczen, and it is no more because Ken Roczen had a horrifying incident over at Anaheim. It completely shattered his left arm, and so now Ryan Dungey, we all thought, would run away from the championship. However, Eli Tomac, a Kawasaki rider, has really came on strong, and him and Ryan Dungey are going to have a bit of a championship fight the way things are going. Dungey has a huge points lead right now, but this weekend they're going to Daytona, which I believe is where Tomac won last year. He seems to do better on these more open Supercross tracks, the bigger ones. and he has been outperforming Dundee in the last few rounds. So let's wait and see. Hopefully we can get a good championship fight between Ryan Dundee and Eli Tomac over in Supercross. So now let's go to our final question for the day, and that is once again going back to F1, and that is Mercedes going to be the car leading this procession that we are going to see this year? And the answer, once again, is inconclusive because there's only so much you can read into testing, but I'm almost unfortunately going to say yes. Now, at the end of Tuesday's testing session, Lewis Hamilton says, hey, looking at all the teams, I think Ferrari are the team to beat. And then on Wednesday, Hamilton's teammate, Valtteri Bottas, and the other Mercedes goes out and turns the quickest lap, while Kimi Räikkönen in the Ferrari puts it in the wall. So that's not looking too good for Ferrari right there. And also Mercedes just seem like a team that over the past few years have had their act together. Even if they haven't had the fastest car at times, they've had good strategy and just reliability, although that was a concern for Hamilton last year. And they're progressing, they're moving forward. So even though it looks like we're going to have the same teams up front this year, Mercedes with maybe Red Bull and Ferrari a little bit behind, hopefully these regulation changes have mixed it up a little bit and we'll see more wins that aren't bright silver, but we shall have to wait and see. The Australian Grand Prix is on March 26th. The only races really going on this weekend. Well, we do have IndyCar racing this weekend as well. Their season starts with the Grand Prix of St. Petersburg. That's on Sunday. NASCAR, the Xfinity, and the Cup Division are in action in Las Vegas. And then also in Supercross, as we mentioned, are in action at Daytona. So hope you enjoy all the racing. The British Americans Guide may or may not be a weekly feature throughout the year. I might choose to do it bi-weekly. And also we will have co-hosts on the show throughout the year. Feel free to submit me your questions. I think I'm going to like this format of picking 4 questions each week, each Thursday, and talking about them on camera. And hopefully we're in for a great season of racing. Even if it's good though, that'll do too.